Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ready to dive deep again. Today we're going to be tackling something I think a lot of you have probably thought about, and that's how to think in English. Like really think in English, not just translate in your head.
Yeah, it's a game changer. We've been digging into some really cool resources for you guys. The Easy English Talk YouTube channel and this podcast called Beyond the Mic. And they have some really practical techniques that we want to share.
Exactly. So the mission for this deep dive is basically how can we give you, our listener, some very clear, actionable steps to move beyond translation. And actually start thinking in English naturally, just like it's your first language.
Yep. And I think, if you're listening to this, you probably experienced that, that feeling of like, oh, I got to translate in my head. And by the time I've translated, I've missed the moment to say something. And that can be really frustrating, right?
For sure. So we really want to unpack like why this is so important. And most importantly, how we can actually start doing it today.
Let's do it.
Okay. So first things first, why should we even bother? Why is this such a big deal?
I think the most immediate thing that you'll notice is just the speed, You cut out that extra step of translating. So that pause that you have, that you feel maybe before you speak, that'll start to go away,
Totally. It's like instead of taking this detour through your native language, you're taking the direct route, right, in English.
Right. You're there.
And I think it's not just about being faster, but it also makes you sound a lot more fluent. Like, when you think in English, the sentences kind of come out more naturally, don't they?
For sure. It's like, the rhythm, those kind of natural expressions, they just kind of come out because you're not trying to force them through the grammar, rules of another language.
Yeah. And I think, when you're more fluent and you can respond more quickly, what happens to your confidence?
Oh, it goes way up, right? Because you're not like, piecing together phrases in your head. You just have the words there because your mind is already in English, right?
Right. That makes conversations so much more enjoyable too, I think.
Yeah.
When they just flow naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just speaking, it's also your listening. Like when you think in English, your brain just processes spoken English more efficiently, right? So you understand things more quickly.
Oh, totally. You start recognizing words and phrases like instantly. Right. And it doesn't matter if you're watching a movie, listening to music, or just chatting with someone.
Totally. And I think it even helps, it helps refine your pronunciation a little bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, because when you're thinking in English, you're hearing those sounds internally. So your pronunciation can actually get, a little bit more natural over time.
Interesting. So we're talking about speaking faster, more fluently, feeling more confident, understanding better, even your pronunciation improves. But there's one more thing, right? You avoid those awkward, like word-for-word translations.
Right. Right. So, when you translate directly from your native language, it can sound really strange in English. But when you think in English, it's like you're capturing the spirit of what you want to say, right? Not just the individual words.
Makes sense. Okay. So we get the why.
Yeah. But
what are some of the things that might be holding us back from actually making that shift,
I think one of the biggest things is translation, Like we tend to rely on our native language as this middleman. Like it's a bridge we have to cross every time.
Right. Like, we talked about learning to ride a bike, and it's like you never take the training wheels off. You're always relying on that crutch.
Yeah, you got it. And I think another thing is that sometimes people get too caught up in grammar. Right?
Oh, yeah. You try to construct these like perfectly grammatical sentences in your head before you even speak.
Exactly. But, native speakers, they don't do that. They just talk.
Yeah, they don't overthink it. And then there's also the fear of making mistakes. I think that's huge for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And that can really stop people from even trying, But like they say in both Easy English Talk and Beyond the Mic, mistakes are part of the process, right? You can't learn without making mistakes.
So true. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress. And then finally, I think the amount of English that you use in your daily life, like how much you immerse yourself, plays a big role, right?
Yeah, definitely. If you're only speaking your native language most of the time, it's going to be harder to switch to English thinking.
Yeah, your brain's just not used to it. Okay, so we've got the why, we've got some of the challenges. Now let's get to the good stuff. how do we actually do it?
All right, let's get tactical. So one of the most basic things, and both Easy English Talk and Beyond the Mic talk about this, is just naming things around you in English. Look around the room. What do you see? Bed, window, lamp, phone. Just name it,
And it's not just about naming things, right?
Yeah.
You can also describe what you're doing with them.
Yeah.
So instead of just cup, you could think, I'm holding a cup, or I'm drinking coffee from my cup.
Yeah, exactly. Start associating those actions with the English words. And another really effective technique is, and I know this might sound weird, but talk to yourself in English.
I love that. And, as they say in Easy English Talk, there's no pressure, right? It's just you. So you can describe what you're doing. I'm putting on my shoes, I'm making breakfast.
Yeah, anything. Or even just your thoughts, like it's a beautiful day. I need to call my mom later.
Right. And then another tip that I found really helpful, and this is from Beyond the Mic, is to switch to an English to English dictionary.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So instead of looking up a word and seeing the translation in your native language, you actually see the definition in English.
Exactly. So, for example, if you look up the word excited, you would see something like feeling very happy and eager.
Right. And that helps your brain actually make connections within the English language instead of always going back to your native language.
It's like building those pathways, in your brain. And when you're starting out, it's really important to think in simple sentences, Don't try to be too complex. Just keep it basic.
Totally. So instead of thinking, oh, I should go to the store later because I need to buy vegetables to cook for dinner, you could just think, I need vegetables.
Exactly. Short and sweet. Now, here's another one that Beyond the Mic talks about, and it's kind of interesting. It's this idea of developing an English inner voice. So like, that voice in your head, you actually try to make it speak English.
Oh, I love that. It's like giving your inner monologue an English makeover.
Yeah, exactly. So, throughout the day, you could be like, okay, what do I need to do next? I need to finish this report, then I need to go to the bank.
Yeah, or even just asking yourself simple questions in English. Like, how am I feeling today? What should I eat for lunch?
Right. It all helps. And of course, immersion is huge. Surround yourself with as much English as possible. Music, movies, books, podcasts, whatever you enjoy.
Yeah, the more your brain hears English, the more natural it'll become to think in it.
Definitely. And Beyond the Mic suggests creating these English-only zones. So like for a certain amount of time each day, you consciously try to only think in English, even if it's just for 5 minutes,
I like that, an English-only zone. And they also talk about using a visual dictionary. So basically, you're connecting words directly with images, without translating.
Exactly. So like if you see a beautiful sunset, you immediately think golden, glowing, breathtaking in English.
Cool. And here's a kind of a fun one. Beyond the Mic calls it the forced error game. Basically, you allow yourself to think and even speak if you're comfortable in what they call broken English.
Oh, I like that.
So, things like me hungry, food where.
So the idea is not to be perfect, but to just get your thoughts out there in English.
Yeah, and it can actually help you be less afraid of making mistakes, which is, a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off. And finally, they talk about this idea of dreaming in English, or at least, setting the stage for it.
Oh, how do you do that?
Well, before you go to sleep, you basically try to replay your day in your mind, but in English. It's a way to kind of get your subconscious mind involved.
Interesting. Okay. So those are some great strategies. But how do we make this a habit? What can we do on a daily basis to really make this stick?
Well, I think one of the easiest things is to start and end your day with English thoughts. So first thing in the morning, maybe think about your plans for the day in English. Okay, today I have a meeting, then I need to go to the gym.
And before you go to sleep, you could think about what you did that day, What did I learn? Did I achieve my goals?
Yeah, exactly. Frame your day in English. And Easy English Talk recommends setting aside a specific time each day, maybe 30 minutes, where you have a no translation rule.
Like a dedicated English thinking time.
Yeah, exactly. You just force yourself to think only in English during that time.
I like that. And then, of course, talking out loud to yourself in English is really helpful.
Oh, yeah. Do it as much as you can. Describe what you're doing, what you see, what you're thinking. It just makes the language more real,
Right. And make sure to use English in your thoughts, even when you're doing simple things like cooking or driving. Instead of letting your mind wander in your native language, try to keep it in English.
And Beyond the Mic recommends keeping an English journal so you can write down your thoughts, your ideas, your goals, whatever's on your mind. It doesn't have to be perfect grammar or anything. Just get it out there in English.
Yeah, I love that idea. And here's another small thing that can make a big difference. Try to replace some of those common everyday thoughts that you have in your native language with the English equivalent.
Oh, that's a good one. So like if you think it's raining today in your native language, immediately switch to it's raining today in English.
Right. Little switches like that
Yeah,
can really add up over time.
for sure. And Easy English Talk recommends watching English content with subtitles and then pausing and repeating what you hear, trying to copy the pronunciation and intonation.
Yeah, that's a great way to train your ear and your brain.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've got all these strategies, but are there any tools or resources that can help us?
Definitely. Technology can be a big help. Like, use those language learning apps. There are tons of them.
Right. And you can even use AI chatbots to practice your conversation skills.
Yeah, or even just switch your phone and computer settings to English,
Yeah.
Just immerse yourself as much as possible. Beyond the Mic also suggests keeping a mini English diary, like just a small notebook to jot down thoughts and ideas in English.
Oh, I like that. And then there are also apps that use gamification to help you stay focused. So, you get rewards for thinking in English.
Yeah, that can be fun. And they also suggest creating visual boards, like with pictures and English words. It's a good way to connect the language with images.
Awesome. Okay. So we've got the tools, we've got the strategies, but what about the challenges? What are some of the things that we might struggle with?
Well, I think one of the most common things is just that tendency to revert back to your native language,
Yeah, it's comfortable, right? It's easy.
Yeah. And Easy English Talk says just be patient with yourself, start small, use the English to English dictionary, and eventually it'll become more natural.
What about those times when you're trying to think in English, but you just can't find the right word?
Oh, yeah, that's frustrating. But instead of giving up and translating, try to describe the word using other English words that you do know.
So like if you can't remember the word refrigerator, you could say that cold thing where you keep food.
Yeah, exactly. Just work around it.
And what about motivation? What if we feel like we're not making any progress?
I think it's really important to track your progress, so keep that English journal, record yourself speaking English sometimes, practice in front of a mirror.
Yeah, so you can see how far you've come.
Exactly, because sometimes it's hard to see the progress when you're in the middle of it. And Beyond the Mic talks about some myths that can hold people back, like, the idea that you need a huge vocabulary to start thinking in English.
Oh, yeah. Like you have to know every word in the dictionary before you can even start.
Yeah, which is ridiculous, right? Just like kids, they start with a few words and they build from there.
So true.
Oh.
And then there's the myth about needing a perfect accent.
Oh, yeah, that one. And Beyond the Mic says, who cares? I mean, clear communication is important, but your accent doesn't have to be perfect.
Exactly. And they actually use Arnold Schwarzenegger as an example, which I love.
Yeah, he has a very strong accent, but everyone understands him, right?
Absolutely.
Uh.
So don't let that hold you back. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is that thinking in English is a process, It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes patience.
So start small, be consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every little bit of practice helps.
Totally. And on that note, here's something to think about, as you start to think in English more and more, how might that change the way you see the world?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like what new perspectives or insights might you gain by experiencing life through the lens of another language? It's something to consider as you go on this journey.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.
See you.